Good morning to all the people who remember that the soundtrack to Earth Siege 2 was written by none other than Static X. I guess good morning to everyone else too. On today's glorious morning roundup, we have a pretty good score. Frankenstein, as always, just pumping out the sharks, doing yeoman's work. This is going to be a new one. Not a new product, but one you guys haven't seen. This is a giant alien head with hands that goes on the wall. They normally sell for $200, but somebody on Mercari offered me $160. Mercari doesn't have transaction fees anymore, so that's pretty good. I printed one of the hands already, and the other hand printed just fine. The really freaky thing about this, though, is it literally almost ran out. I cut it a little too close with the roll of filament, but like even this last bit, kind of some of it's sort of thin, but came out essentially perfect other than stringy. There's a pretty cool story to this one. This is, of course, my David trash can. It was a real big deal, probably a year ago. They still sell periodically. And the bells actually fell off because the filament broke late last night before I left. And I was able to fix it, which is what happened around there. My Pug headset, wall-mounted headset. These are not the hands that go to it. Printed just fine. The paws are somewhere else. But yeah, Pug Boy, pretty good. Small David came out just fine. Again, stringy. I think this is fine. And once that gets cleaned up and painted, it'll look awesome. Got a couple of frog dishes done. And, well, it's a frog dish. What do you expect? Here we got the original cheese design. You guys saw the second cheese design a few episodes ago, but this is the one that started it all. And we're about to package this mother. All right, time to ship this guy, and I took pictures. Oh man, got myself again. Dang it. These things always happen at the least convenient times. Hey, they're picking up my mail. Sweet. Honestly, the teeth kind of feel fine today. A little weird, but they're coming along nicely. I realized you guys maybe have never seen the back doors. There they are. It's weird how there's so many people who will complain about how hard their life is and stuff, but then aren't like proud of it. Like if you're a champion weightlifter, you are admitting that you're doing really hard things all the time, but like you're proud of it. You're not like down on that because of that fact. Like it's a flex. So if your life really is super hard, like how are you not bragging when you talk about it? Like if your life is really hard and you're just complaining about it all the time, that's bragging. You're bragging about how amazing you are or something. Kind of random, but one of my pet peeves is when people use analogies in debates. You should never use an analogy to try to prove something, because an analogy is always different than the thing you're talking about by definition. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an analogy. Now, either the difference is irrelevant and you don't need the analogy, or the difference is relevant and the analogy doesn't prove. In other words, if you make an analogy, but the difference between the analogy and the thing you're talking about is irrelevant, then the analogy doesn't prove anything. But if there's no difference between the thing you're talking about and the analogy, it's not an analogy. So it just bugs me when people try to prove something like through analogy. What an analogy can do is to show that the person you're debating already agrees with you, but they probably don't already agree with you. Otherwise, why are you debating them? Now, if you use the analogy to successfully show that they already agree with you, what they're going to say is the difference is relevant. So like, just talk about the thing. Don't make an analogy, talk about the thing. I know this is boring, but if you start talking about why the difference in the analogy is relevant or irrelevant, inevitably what you're going to be doing is just talking about the thing itself. So even going down the chain of logic further, just don't try to prove through analogy. Just talk about the thing itself. In the pantheon of very, very simple meals I make, this is potatoes with bacon over it. So you can see the pieces of bacon. I put doña salsa and Salvadorian cream over it and some spices. And I also cracked an egg over this. Pretty amazing. Time to do this guy. Got a couple new trinket bowls from my Italian designer guy. An alligator bowl. A sluggo bowl. Really a snail-o bowl. Probably draw up some supports pretty soon, but we're gonna go do some recycling. Just had a couple of local kids from the university come and check out the shop. It's pretty fun. One of the guys is actually interested in 3D modeling, so maybe a few years down the road he might work for me. Just did a fair bit of recycling. We're probably gonna do some more, but I remembered I got some stuff I wanna get from the Mexican supermarket. So let's go. Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's easy to forget because this is just my everyday life. But for a lot of people, this is kind of like their dream. I mean, this was just a dream in my head 6 years ago. I mean, I'm very glad to be doing it. It's not, I don't think I could exactly say I'm taking it for granted, but sometimes you just get some perspective when like other people just come and check it out. Oh, yeah. Can I really say no to this? Got a couple of these things too. Man, I love Mexican supermarkets. Pretty excited for this. We're gonna put this in the freezer. Personally, my rule with the freezer is never put it in there without a timer. These days, I can't just not get my doña salsa. These peanut things are really cheap and super good. And if you remember those eggs I made a while back, they were kind of sticking to the foil. And so I realized I probably need to get some more of this. All right, it's later. Let's try this. Here goes nothing. It's got these little coconut jelly things in them. It's really quite good. It's like Mexican boba tea or something like that. It tastes like something you would eat or something you would be served in like Cabo. We're about done for the day, but we're gonna be painting a couple things. One of them is this pug boy. He's looking pretty puggy. Ha ha! The bells worked.